2017. Tonight's invocation will be given to us by Council Member Curtis Moore.
Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and power, and glory forever and ever. Amen.
Tonight's flag salute will be led by Councilmember Paul Todd. Paul Todd served 6 years in the Air Force, obtaining the rank of Tech Sergeant. 18 months of that time was spent in Vietnam. There are 58,286 names inscribed on the Vietnam Memorial Wall, several of whom were fellow service members with Paul. The freedoms we enjoy today have been purchased with the blood and sacrifice of America's finest young men and women. Let us honor the sacrifice by honoring our flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's the only one I can find who's in her face.
Item number 1 on tonight's agenda is the consent docket, A through D.
I
Do I have
move
a
we
motion?
accept.
I'd second that motion.
I have one question, or maybe two. These item D down here, what is our proposal to purchase on those?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
I would like to know the decision that's been made to purchase the 2 vehicles for the Public Works Department, Utility Department, and what type they are. There was a number of options offered. Are these just standard options, or are they add to, like 4-door cabs, long
David,
wheelbases, whatever?
Good evening. No, they are just F-150 pickups. They're
Just
not
F-150
four-doors.
pickups,
Yes.
plain Janes?
Plain Janes, that
Plain
is
Janes.
correct. We have,
And we're going to add whatever the utility department needs in the way of communication equipment and safety products on them, so that can be used over the whole spectrum of the utility department.
that is correct. They are coming with strobes on them, yes.
That's because there were some things in here that led me to believe we might be buying some utility cabs and those sort of things.
Oh, no, what you're looking at all the options that are offered by the dealer.
Okay.
And we selected the strobes, we selected an extra key, because nowadays you have to have a key, an $85 key to replace it. And at that point, it's just a basic truck after that. Yes.
So these are plain Jane?
Plain Jane, yes.
Okay. Nobody will be accusing us of driving an F-150 Laredo or something around town.
No, it's not going
Okay.
to be anything like that. They are
That's what I
certainly
want
work
to see.
trucks.
They're
Okay.
plain Janes.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I need to know.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your help.
Thank you, David.
Please cast your votes. Item number 2 is a call to the public. If there's anyone who wishes to address the council, please step to the microphone, state your name, address, and city where you live. You'll have 3 minutes. I'd like to remind everybody, because there's some of us who are new here, that when you're addressing the council as a whole, not individually, and we really cannot engage with you or solve your problem if it happens to be a problem that you're bringing up, but we want to hear from you. Anybody have anything?
My name is Steve White. I live at 4705 North College in Bethany. And I just wanted to thank whoever was responsible for putting in the stop sign at 46th and College. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to the neighborhood, especially the children that live in the neighborhood. So I just wanted to thank whoever's responsible. That's all I have to say, and I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Item number 3, adoption of resolution number 1429, affirming the July 4th, 2017 parade, approving fireworks, approving a nonprofit entity to collect a $5 parking fee at Eldon Line Park, and approving a new group to host and run the daytime activities, thus minimizing city staff involvement in the same. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Is this reading? Is this a reading or is this the final vote?
It'd just be a motion that motion would be to approve the resolution. Those are ordinances that go on reading by title only. I mean, we can read the title if you'd like, but
Well, I just think we need to probably a little discussion as far as specificity.
I believe there'll be a staff report after there's a second.
Okay.
I'll second. Okay.
Okay. I'd like to explain kind of how we've gotten to this point with the Freedom Festival. I don't think there's any denying that we all know that this is a great event for our city. But I honestly believe that this event could be better if we had a committee formed that were able to focus on this event entirely. In all honesty, the city staff is carrying the entire load of this event, and the JD's secretary actually spends 20 of her 40 work hours a week from January to mid-July focused in on this one-day event. And the Public Works Department becomes all hands on deck getting Eldon Line Park ready for the event and then cleaned up afterwards, spending about 3 to 4 weeks from what I understand. And this time period is the prime time for getting other stuff accomplished around our city that we need to be getting done. And so I really believe that that if our city staff could concentrate on things that benefit our city and our citizens on a year-round basis, we'd be better off and our city would be better. And I believe if there was a committee that could concentrate and focus in on this event, then the event could be much better even. If they operated and formed themselves as a nonprofit or worked underneath a nonprofit organization, I think they would get better pricing for the things needed to pull off the event. They could give tax-deductible donations where the city can't for people who want to give towards this event. And they could honestly spend a lot more time on this event than the city staff is capable of. And so I think that being able to have a committee that could focus in on that and a city staff that could focus in on city stuff, that we're all going to be better off. It's a win-win. I've spoken with a few people that are interested in being a part of this committee. We all know and love Randy Lunstra, former council member, and he knows how this thing runs. And he's committed to being a co-chair or the co-chair of this committee once it's formed. I've also spoken with the Children's Center, which is a nonprofit organization, Southwest Christian University, and Southern Nazarene University, who would be interested in being a part of this committee and helping this thing happen. I really believe if the community wants this event, that the community can get involved in this event and make it better than it's ever been. Does anybody have anything they want to?
I have some questions about the official parking fee being $5 for a nonprofit. Legally, Attorney Davis, how does that work? Can we legally set a parking fee for a nonprofit? And then, since it is a set fee, how is the city going to go about selecting what nonprofit is going to get that?
Mr. Mayor, if you could ask the city council person to speak into the microphone, I think that'd be helpful, if that's all right.
Can you ask it again?
Okay. Am I on? Okay. Can you hear me any better? Sorry. Oh. My question is if we're setting a flat rate, an official parking fee for $5 and having that go to a nonprofit entity, can we legally do that as a city? Have that $5 parking fee go to a nonprofit? And then a general question is how are we going to pick that nonprofit that's going to receive that?
The way this resolution is structured, that fee will go to defray the cost of organizing the parking and the entry to the facility. As you all know, someone has to be in charge of that, otherwise it would be a free-for-all for the entry and the parking. And this is a fee that we could pay to anyone to run that parking concession. And I have no legal issue with paying it to a nonprofit to do that. Now, the second question, I don't know the answer to that.
Maybe I can throw in one more.
Yeah.
And if I could add one more thing on top of the legal, we asked David for his opinion on that. I had actually suggested that we go ahead and lock that in as a fee, since it is legal for us to do that, in order for a group to be attracted to be able to put that on, so they can count on the revenues from that to be able, as David said, to be able to defray the cost of actually putting the event on.
Mr. Mayor, I have questions. The nonprofit, is there one that is already being considered? Is it a nonprofit that's already organized, or do they have to organize, is one part of the question. And then also, we have vendors every year that pay $50 or $100. Would that money go to defray the fireworks, or would that go to the nonprofit?
Your first question, we've met with a few of these nonprofits. Not one of them is saying, okay, we want to use our nonprofit, let us be the guy. I think they all want to come together and form a team, a committee, to be able to make this thing happen. And I want to clarify something, because I don't think I did earlier, that this committee being formed now, and obviously it will grow, but they would come alongside this year our city staff to make this event happen, and then help organize it, run it, and see how Linda and everybody has put it together, knowing that on July 5th, this is your deal. Linda will stay on as a consultant and help guide them on this committee. And we know it's going to take a few public works people to help set up fencing and things like that, but we can figure all that out. As far as the nonprofit, I don't know of one that wants to necessarily yet step up to say we want this underneath our umbrella, or if we need to form our own, or this committee's own nonprofit organization to solely focus in on this.
So this year it would be run by the city with these people helping? I mean, as if Randy doesn't know how to do it, but others may not.
Correct, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think so. Unfortunately, the folks that were part of that weren't able to be here tonight, but they're very enthusiastic. And it very well may be that they're able to get organized and be able to go ahead and have that group together, and they may be even looking for an umbrella group to form underneath if there's already a not-for-profit entity that exists that they could do that under.
I might
They do
clarify.
have a meeting. I'm sorry. And they do have a meeting scheduled, I believe, Mr. Mayor, for
March
the 23rd?
Yeah, March 23rd.
I might clarify one thing. The way this resolution is set up, this new entity will be issued a special event permit for this particular event. So it wouldn't be any different than any entity that was issued a special permit for that facility.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. This is a one-day event, and this nonprofit entity would be in charge of this one-day event, and they wouldn't have any other responsibilities as it's related to Eldon Lyon Park at any other point in time during the year. Is that right?
Correct.
So it's not like we're allowing them to have unlimited access to the park. They're only going to have access to plan and prepare and put on this event on July 4th. Is that right?
May I throw one thing in? And the setup. The setup is going to probably take a few more days than just July the 4th.
But the point is, it's a limited amount of time,
That is-
and they're not going to close the park. They're not going to have, they're going to have access for the event, and once it's completed and cleaned up, that's it. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right.
And I think the idea is that, for example, the carnival, if they're going to have a carnival, I believe this entity will contract with the carnival company instead of the city, which has been the past practice.
What about the vendors? Will vendors go through this group? And we will, at the present time then, we will turn this to them before this event takes place.
Yes,
So our city staff will not have to go through this.
yes, sir.
In the past, on this parking business, I believe it was the Bethany School Foundation was the
It's different
group of
groups.
people. Can you not hear me?
No, I think it's been different groups.
I think they've had
It's been
different
scout troops and different groups.
I
think.
thought it was a Bethany School.
I could
They,
be wrong.
they've done
but-
it in the past. I believe the last year it was the Southwestern Christian did it last year, I believe.
Danielle, would you introduce yourself and
Yes.
kindly answer the question?
Yes, my name is Danielle Barker. I'm the Community Development Specialist. Last year, I helped Linda with the event through most of the year. To answer your question, it has been different groups. Last year was Southwest Christian University. They've mentioned about doing it again this year for the parking. The year before that, I believe it was Bethany Public Schools.
Yes.
So-
And they requested that we do donations.
Yes, they
They
take
did, there was no hard rule of $5 bill, stick it in the bucket and go on, you know.
Right,
It was if you had the civic duty and wanted to help the city out, then you could donate whatever you wanted to donate, whether it was $3 or $10.
That's correct. They
And,
typically
you know,
requested that, but it was whatever.
The thing that I'm having a difficult time with is to setting a fee on this and asking people that live within the city of Bethany that pay 9 cents a square foot to have that park taken care of every year, having to pay to go park in there, mandatorily pay, whether they want to have civic pride and donate money to these organizations is something else to me. If I have the civic pride that I would donate money, but I would probably walk in from where I live if I had to pay $5.
Right. And typically, they don't require it. They just ask, hey, would you mind having a donation for? That's the way it's been done in the past.
It's been a donation in the
That's
past,
correct.
and I would like to see it stay that way. But whether we can do it or not, I don't know.
That's certainly up to you all. This was a recommendation we put together, but you all certainly can set that however you
We
like.
can no longer call it free if there's a charge to park, right?
That's right.
I would certainly like to see it stay donation, and as you're pulling in, clearly marked as a donation. Actually, last year or the previous couple years, it has not been clearly marked as a donation. I think it was really citizens coming in thought it was an actual fee. That's how it's been marked in the last year or two.
Did you say it has or has not been the group to take care of parking for this year? Has that been selected?
Sorry, go ahead.
Maybe I could help with that. So the group that will be taking on the responsibilities of the whole event will be able to make that determination. Presumably, it would go back to them to help pay for the costs that we've shown that is so expensive to run the daytime operations.
But for this year, has somebody already been selected?
No, like I said, the way this is written, it would go to the group that's putting it on, is the way it's written. And I was going to just throw out to you all, if again, this is at the pleasure of council. The whole thing is we've made a recommendation to you. If you wish to leave it as a donation, you could just simply make a motion to strike the language that establishes a $5 fee. and the rest of the resolution would still stand.
I think it'd be good to put a $5
Donation.
requested.
Okay.
That's how it was done several years ago, and I worked it several years ago, and Mr. Shiver's right. There was very little resistance to a bucket that said $5 donation requested. Very little resistance. There was some, but it was a minuscule amount, and there was a minuscule amount too of families that, very few, that could not afford it. And that was their only thing they had to do for the 4th of July. It was such a very small number that they could just let them go through. And it was not even worth, it was incalculable. But most people did not hesitate on that. I did like the idea of, we were given golf carts, or we weren't, there was 2 or 3 or 4, because it gets so full. There's a lot of elderly, and there's a lot of, I think Jeff did it too, nursing homes that they would have to park a quarter mile away, and we would shuttle them back and forth with carts. And
But
also,
that requires money to rent those carts. And this would be
well, you've
one of
got
the
money,
reasons
Mr.
that the
Shiver, just
donation-
rent them, it's okay. Just rent them. Well, I mean, that's what I'd like to see. Whether, how that works out, I don't know. But I do, there's one thing I would like to see, is this to remain the City of Bethany's Freedom Festival, not whatever this new 501c3 or whatever it happens to be. If it becomes, the Billy Bob Freedom Festival, or the Southwest Christian, or SNU, or whatever. They could be in association with them, but it needs to remain the City of Bethany Freedom Festival as the name of the event. And I've got, if this item passes, I'm going to withdraw my next motion from the agenda, because we've had up to $75,000 in salary for an individual to go out and solicit funds for the Freedom Festival. That person is no longer here. They did not raise the funds to cover the cost of the Freedom Festival. That $75,000 is not reflected anywhere on a balance sheet or on a spreadsheet anywhere. So I mean, the negative amount we're losing, to advertise our city, actually is covered by that salary no longer being here. But it doesn't matter to me who runs it, as long as the 58,000 people that died in Vietnam and the servicemen are celebrated within the City of Bethany, and it remains called the City of Bethany Freedom Festival. So if this passes, I'm going to withdraw my motion for the next agenda item. So,
I have 2 more questions. One relates to the fireworks. Who would run that, and does that still happen? And the second, I think there is a Christian car group that sponsors the car show, so would they still be involved?
This year, from what we've talked about, we, as the City of Bethany, would pay and run the fireworks display, knowing that next year, if this group can raise the funds and get organized well enough, they could potentially take it over. Also, just so it's clear, the City of Bethany will hold on to and run and organize and enjoy the parade. So this that we're talking about right now is just this middle section of the all day long at Eldon Lyon Park.
And the resolution contemplates that as well.
At the car show.
That,
Does the Christian car organization still run the car show?
I
I
would.
mean, I think they've done it for years. I could be wrong.
I don't think it'll make any difference to them. I've been to that show for the last 5 or 6 years, and it's a great group, and they love to come here, so I can
think
imagine that they wouldn't.
Yeah. I think the committee would probably want them to stay
Yeah, it's
involved in it.
Southwest Christian Street Rods is the name of the group, and they really like the atmosphere here, and I think they'd be real disappointed if they didn't get to come back.
And I agree with you, Councilman Moore, that I think it's in the City of Bethany, regardless of the entities that come together to form the committee. I agree that it should remain the City of Bethany's Freedom Festival, however they want to word that in conjunction with, but it's all done in the city, so.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with you also. It should be the Bethany City Freedom Festival. But I think we should give these people that are willing to probably get in and work very hard. I think we ought to put in association with the groups that, and give them some of their just due for doing this.
Yes, I agree.
And there may be more people that wants to work.
Yeah.
One other question is, in the past, we haven't, I don't think, we haven't held fast to just one day on the carnival. Sometimes we have a big midway, like a big Ferris wheel or giant rides. Sometimes they're open for 2 days. You know, so I mean, I don't think we need to just tie it down for somebody who's willing to bring in a whole midway for one day. You know, if they want to have it for 2 days, I don't think that should be a problem.
Yeah, the special event permit that's being issued would include all those things.
Yes, they have a special permit that.
Yeah, typically, I think the carnival's been there, depending on what day of the week it falls. I wouldn't be surprised if they opened, I believe the 4th of July is on Tuesday.
I think that's right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they opened Saturday before that
The
either.
longer the period, the bigger the rides.
That's true.
Probably open on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday before.
Yeah, that'd be my guess too.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to clarify, although this nonprofit entity has not been formed yet, I would guess, and I'm just asking here, would they accept people to serve as volunteers? Could we volunteer if they needed help, or if we just wanted to for a shift or whatever?
Certainly. They would probably
I'd
love
say
to have you.
citizens,
We can sign you up now if you'd like to.
put me down. Thanks.
Put me down as well, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions?
Well, I don't know if we need to really bring it up. Mr. Shirey does have a point, though. We always did have golf carts to be able to shuttle citizens out of in the parking area. I mean, I don't think we need to put it in there, but if we do, we do, because there's a lot of people that cannot walk that far.
That would just be one of the expenses
Yeah.
of the
Right.
festival.
It's not, yeah, we'll work that out.
So do you refresh my memory, who made that motion on that? Because we may need to revise that motion to strike that fee as opposed to donation.
Anyone can make a motion to.
It's already been made,
It's
I
already been
think,
made.
and
That's why
seconded,
I
I
asked.
believe.
To strike.
Mr. Palmer.
Change.
I think we have a
Make
motion
the
and a
motion.
second, so that motion would need to be amended, and I have some, if you want to consider that, I've kind of marked this up for you a little bit. If you have it there in front of you on page 2, under item 3, the third line from the bottom of paragraph 3, I would suggest deleting the word fee and adding donation there instead. And I believe that will accomplish what you stated.
Maybe don't say $5.
A donation, a parking fee, or parking donation of $5 per vehicle.
Well, what if they gave you 10 and you take it?
Well, I don't think they would refuse it. I don't know. I guess we could not put an amount, but typically it's been $5. That's what it's been for several years.
I would make a motion to amend my motion.
I'll second the amendment to the motion.
Cast your votes.
Mr. Mayor, I withdraw my agenda item.
I'll second that.
Good.
That would be item 3A is withdrawn.
So moving to item number 4, the approval of an information technology agreement with ImageNet to provide IT services. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Well, we discussed this a little bit.
Okay.
So I can do a report.
would you like to report?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Stacy, I don't know if you would like to visit about this. I'm happy. Okay, very good. We have been contemplating adding an IT company for quite some time. Actually, what's in the budget now, what was approved by council for this budget year is actually for a full-time IT person. After I came aboard and we began visiting with staff, we put together an IT support committee and we started looking at options. It became pretty apparent fairly quickly that a more economical way for us to go would be to hire a firm that has a breadth of knowledge and technological background to be able to support our varied and many needs that we have in an organization of our size versus one person trying to specialize in so many different areas. And so with that, we went out for an RFQ. There was a typo here that said that we'd gotten bids. We didn't get bids. We did an RFQ and request for qualifications. We had 4 different vendors that responded. And after reviewing all their backgrounds, a vendor was narrowed down, a single vendor was narrowed down, and we began negotiating with them. The vendor that the committee selected is ImageNet. They're here in the metro area. They'll assist us. There's a listing in your packet. I won't go through all of them, but there's all sorts of issues with the server, with our software, with networking that we really need to have in place now. Probably needed in place about 3 months ago, and we've been sort of getting by in the interim. But what we had budgeted was over $90,000 for a individual, for a full-time individual, and the cost for this will be $36,000 for an entire year. So I think it's a great deal, great benefit for our organization. I'd like to thank the committee. Stacy Peck, who's our municipal court director, is on that committee, along with Rick Lemon with the police department, and Steve Harsman and myself. And I would like to thank you all for all your hard work that you put into it. So our recommendation is to approve the IT agreement with ImageNet.
Would they be able to handle our ongoing issues with Cox Cable and the TV channel and programming of that?
So actually, Nikki Gabbard, our public relations individual who's actually here filming this tonight, has made a lot of progress in getting some of those issues resolved already, like the audio. We now will have the ability to do audio on Channel 20, which we did not have before, over and beyond our council meetings. So in the future, we'll be able to rebroadcast the meetings and those kinds of things. But yes, to directly answer your question, they will work as an intermediary with Cox Communication, yes.
And once again, not to beat a dead horse, but we spent a fortune with Terry Bradshaw, and it's a very, very good presentation, but it's not a drama. It's just an explanatory
Sure.
video of what Bethany is, hosted by Terry Bradshaw. That ought to be shown twice a day.
And we will be able to do that. One of the things we've actually been brainstorming maybe is making a new one, making it ourselves, making it in-house that's up to date. Because the only problem is that it's dated now and has dated information, and so you kind of always run into that. But we are getting the technology in place where we're going to be able to do that ourselves. And so I anticipate maybe we can do some updated videos in the very near future. But yes, to answer your question, we could play that as well.
I hate to see Terry Bradshaw's video go to waste. He's a good salesman for the city of Bethany.
I have a question. I see this, we've produced $90,000 in our budget, set it aside, and this went for $36,000.
Yes, sir.
We will still be required to buy licensing for programs that we are operating.
Yes, sir.
And will this only, their services only be for City Hall operation, or will it be for the police department or other entities that use computers extensively, like our Public Works Department.
Yes, sir. With the exception of the police department. The police department already is well ahead of the rest of the organization as far as technology is concerned. They already have a contract for their services already in place. But this agreement will cover all the other departments now, and fire and public works and city hall.
So then we will spend, in addition to this $36,000, a large sum of money to provide programming for these. We'll have to buy programming for these, or pay fees for programming.
Yes, but we have money in the budget outside of this
Outside
for
of this,
the rest of our IT needs.
So you're telling me that we've saved probably $50,000?
Yes, sir.
On going this way over the way we thought we was going to have to go.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations, I appreciate that.
What, on the $3,000 I'm looking at Appendix B, the very last page. Included in the how many hours does that include? Because there's 9 activities remotely or on site that are $100 to $150 an hour with 2-hour minimums. Where does the extra fees kick in for their work? On just the very last page.
I'm sorry. Let me get there. I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
We're paying $3,000 a month for their services.
Yes, sir.
And then Appendix B is for those services.
Oh, that are over and beyond?
Right, over and beyond. What is over and beyond, and when, I guess?
I believe if I recall, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's after hours.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to add.
Does this go back to Appendix A on page 4? Is that what we're speaking of here?
Appendix B, which is the very last page, actually.
I guess, so 5 to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday, is $100 an hour, and all other times are $150 an hour, so 9 p.m. after Friday, is that what that?
Yes, sir.
weekends?
Yes, it'd be like weekends, or if there's an emergency that late. I don't know. I'm not aware of too many of those kinds of situations that would be cropping up.
But if there was a flood at City Hall, that would require the
There you go.
extra.
This is really, really priced more like a maintenance agreement in that I think, they have certain obligations under the contract, and some months they may not earn all of that, and then the other months they may earn twice that. It's your typical software type IT kind of maintenance agreement.
And to my understanding, that's normal for the industry related to these services provided, so.
The additional fees?
Yes, sir.
Do we meet the minimum standards required for the existing equipment? Did anyone do an analysis of that, or do we need to bring everything up to date?
That is a loaded question all the way through, top to bottom,
You can
backwards
pay me
and forwards.
later,
We believe at this point that our software is all legal, that everything is licensed properly. However, that's one of the first services they're going to do is system-wide run a search. It's a utility program to ensure that everything is properly licensed. So that will be item number 1 on the agenda for us to do. As far as the equipment, yeah, we have outdated equipment. Some is very slow. Some of our software is a little bit out of date as well. And as I said a moment ago, we do have money in the budget to do some upgrades. For example, our networking is really kind of behind the times, and it's difficult for us, for example, using Microsoft Outlook. We don't share calendars hardly at all, believe it or not, in an organization of our size. And it's been extremely difficult, and I'm whining now, and I'm sorry, but it's just been very, very difficult for us to transact our business with not being able to communicate properly. Another thing we're looking at in the very near future is tying the City Hall together with the police department, and we are currently not tied. We have to go up through the internet cloud and then back down again for us to connect. And so we had thought all along that we were probably going to have to run a fiber connection between the two buildings, but in talking with our, with the ImageNet preliminarily, after they had been selected, when we were talking negotiations, is generally what's our first steps going to be. We were talking about some other solutions that may not require such an expensive thing as a fiber cable. So there's other ways that we might be able to attain the same kind of communication as with being so close. So I think that's right.
Mr. Mayor, is it fair to say that with this new company and firm, we can upgrade the city of Bethany to the extent that it'll be leading edge when it comes to computer technology to allow the city workers to perform their job in a better capacity?
I sure hope so.
I think that should be the intent, and whatever you need, JD, go for it.
Thank you very much.
So we have a motion and we have a second. Please cast your votes.
Thank you all very much.
Item number 5 on the agenda, adoption of resolution number 1430, approving the formation of a charter review committee for review of city charter, determining the number of committee members, authorizing the approval of procedure for selection of members for the committee, and authorizing mayor to appoint the members as this is requested by council member Arleta Harris. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second. I have a series of questions. I'd like to make a comment first. Some of you know, for a good number of years, I've sat on a board of directors for a college in Kansas, and this same proposal came before us there, and I was one of the beginners. I was against it, but after the fact, it proved to be very beneficial, and I'm encouraged to, I had egg on my face, but I'm encouraged here that I'm going to say it needs to be looked at. But the questions I have is do we set a time limit on this thing? It's proposed to start at a given time and terminate by, do the research by a given time, give it a 1 year or 2 year time frame to accomplish the end objective. And who chooses the chair? Because I'm going to suggest somebody to my right that ought to be chairing the thing. But let's take care of the first one here first. Is there a time?
When I recommended it was because this is away from what I always called silly season. If we're in an election period, then people use this to campaign. And so by starting this at the time that we're doing our other advisory boards and committees, then this group could have, be started at the same time, and I would think a year would be plenty of time to make recommendations. And then any recommendations that they had for charter change could be put on the same ballot. So we wouldn't be just piecemealing, throwing things onto the ballot for charter changes. I think it should be all citizens. I think we'd be glad to give ideas to our citizens that we're recommending, but I really think it should be a totally citizen charter review committee.
Here's what I have thought, is that each council member would nominate one citizen from within their ward, and they would return the nominations back to me by April 18th. This will allow us to get our election for our vacated seat behind us, which that election is April 4th. And so that'll allow our newly elected one to also choose somebody, because I will contact them on the 5th of April and let them know what's required of them. And so that's kind of my thought process of how the committee will be chosen or nominated, and they will be citizens.
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I think that we should be, if the council people should be able to even nominate themselves, because I don't think we I think some of the changes that are being looked at are not constitutional, and a lot of people aren't familiar with what's even being talked, some of the changes that are being talked about, and I think that some of having city council people on there could help that. We don't need to get into about those discussions right now about what the changes could or couldn't be to the charter, but
Mr. Mayor,
I think it could help.
didn't mean to interrupt. Would it not be the case if you had citizens participating, they could make recommendations related to the charter change, which would ultimately be discussed and approved by the city council, and then at that point, those issues would be on the next available ballot. So it's not like the city council, they would ultimately have the final say and approval
Correct.
before it goes on the ballot. I think it would be in the city's best interest to have a nonpartisan recommendation on charter change to increase the validity and the relevancy of those changes, because they're coming directly from the residents as opposed to city council individuals who may have an ulterior motive or an agenda.
Correct.
Then in other words, you're saying that this should be an advisory committee instead of a committee, which would have authority. They're only bringing advice to this city council here to make these recommendations. I know back in 1953 or 54, when Bethany went to a city manager form of government, they had a group of citizens that was not on the council bring the city charter to its the standards that it was written from, and then the council passed it on.
I would assume that such a body, this committee, would have hearings, would solicit information, would make it much like we did the comprehensive plan, where you have people give their input, not that they just sit around and vote on something.
Yes.
And they would have to come back to the council.
I see this committee getting together and going through this charter and probably coming back to us with a whole list of stuff.
Yes.
Well, you can't have a whole list of things on a ballot without overwhelming the citizens. So we, as a council, are going to have to decide which are the most important things. But you can't, we're also going to have to decide how do those changes occur. So that's when it gets brought back to us, and we're going to have to make a decision.
And there are recommendations.
We are an elected body from the people of that are our
Correct.
constituents, and they expect us to do the job of running this city. And I think the changes in the charter should reflect that.
Correct.
And the comp plan, for example, has recommendations in it that would require charter changes. So if they look at the whole charter, then it takes it away from just doing one thing at a time.
Right.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think the primary focus would be participation by all residents, because that has not happened, and it needs to happen, and it needs to be sustained, and it needs to be consistent so that all of the residents are aware of these changes. So if and when the charter change comes up on the ballot, there's no confusion, and they completely understand what's going on, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and when it's going to happen.
Any other questions?
In this motion, do we need to put a date of implementation and then a termination date? You know, set a beginning and end date? And is it safe to assume that at the conclusion, those committee members are discharged from their responsibilities and go on? Does that need to be put in this motion?
Let me answer your last question first. The ad hoc language, that means that when they're done, it's over with. And the first question is, should there be a time limit? Certainly you can do that, but recognizing these are volunteers, so I think I've served on or served with at least two of these type committees in Bethany, and I've found they're very diligent, and, you know, I'd hate for them to feel they were rushed. I suppose that any time during the process, the city council could direct them to hurry up and get finished if they're not moving fast enough. So I'll leave that up to you guys.
Is it
but,
prudent to put a 1-year thing or a 2-year time limit on this thing?
that's certainly your prerogative if you want
I
to do
think
that.
2 years is entirely too long.
Mr. Mayor, I'd recommend some type of 6-month status report, and then once the committee's been, or the entity's been created, have a 6-month status report provided by JD or the city related to what's going on, and then we can put a timetable if it's not fast enough.
I might mention this also provides that your staff will provide all the support services for the committee, and that's a big part of it, because there will be operational questions that they'll have about the charter that the city manager or his staff could answer. Legal questions, they'll direct at me, and I think their recommendation will be well thought out.
I would, if it's gonna be an all-citizen review board, basically ad hoc review board is what it will be, is then the chair should be a citizen, also a stakeholder.
The chair, I envision, they would elect their own chair. That's what I envisioned.
Right, so it would not be any city council
No.
on the,
Correct.
Well, and for purposes of a timeline, I think we take KP, Mr. Mayor's timeline, and add 6 months to it, and that would be their first deadline to provide a report related to the status and the issues that they're discussing.
And wouldn't this be an open meeting?
Yes.
So anybody could attend, we just couldn't
Absolutely.
participate.
well, we could participate as citizens.
David, I just have one question. Would the timeline need to be part of the resolution, or could that just be a matter of policy? How it's implemented?
I think that's up to you. Currently, there's no time frame in it. I think Councilmember Palmer's idea was that in 6 months, if you don't see any progress, establish a deadline at that point rather than establishing one up front. That almost implies some degree of control, I guess, over them to impose that. And, you know, if I were on the committee, I'd feel better if there weren't some deadline that I felt compelled to meet. But
Excuse me. As we're setting up the other advisory boards, do they have 1-year terms? Do they have limited terms?
some of them do, yes, some of the other boards you created, but this is an ad hoc committee, so there wouldn't normally be any terms
We
set
wouldn't
here.
have to have a term?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
I call for a vote.
Please cast your votes. Item number 6 is the city attorney's report.
My items were listed on the agenda.
Item 7 is the city manager's report.
Good evening. I do have a few things this evening. I intend to be a little long-winded, and I apologize. It's just a lot of things to share. The first is, late this afternoon, I did receive some news that is unfortunate. You know, we had postponed moving forward with the franchise agreement with OG&E pending some state legislation, and also we were researching a legal opinion that the courts had made here in Oklahoma. And I learned today that the legislation actually had been pulled because of the same court decision that was made some time ago. And so the legislature is not moving forward with the change that we had contemplated. So there's really no reason for us then to delay the franchise agreement. So I anticipate in the near future, if not the next meetings, certainly soon, we'll have that back for you all for consideration. So that's my bad news today. Moving on, though, I have some really good things to share with you. First of all, in the world of we have a lot of great operations in our organization. The court's running well. Our fire department is certainly running well. In the police department, we recently received, all things depend on how well evidence is contained and handled. And we received a report back, an audit report that was a glowing report. And I would like to congratulate our department, our police department, on the job very well done. Chief Cole, Deputy Chief J.D. Reed, Captain Brent Green, and certainly the gentleman that's in charge of it all, Lieutenant Chad Meek. We have certainly come a long way. So congratulations and thank you all very much for your hard work. I'd also like to give a huge thanks of appreciation. Our Interim Public Works Director, David Buchanan, is here tonight. His staff have been working really hard. I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of our properties are starting to show some marked improvement, including the City Hall property. We have a long way to go to get grass growing here on City Hall once again, but we're making progress. But we certainly have flowers are being planted and things are starting to color up a little bit around here. I'd like to especially recognize Dallas Snipes, Jose Avila, who's also known as Lupe, RJ McCall, and Jaime Carrera, who did extra work on the sign out in front of City Hall where they built up the sign and built some landscaping around it. It really looks nice and is just maybe a hint of things yet to come. So great job, David, and to your department. Thank you very much. I have been reporting off and on. We do have some new folks on board now. We have formed a stakeholders group that's made up of the presidents of the various organizations in our community, and each month we've been inviting a different council member to those meetings. This will only be our third one in March, so if you feel like you've missed out, don't worry. There'll certainly be time coming. John Herron will be, Council Member Herron will be joining us at the March meeting, and that's going really well. And I'm excited about the potential for community development, for economic development with that is, I think, very, very good. I anticipate giving you a update on all of our various projects around the community, hopefully within the next week or so. It's been a little while since I have given you an update, but we have a lot of things going on around the community that many of those things will probably come back to you for either a final review or a perfection of some imperfections that exist with them. So I'm looking forward to seeing if we can't get those cleared out here in the relatively near future. Additionally, begun some review of some of our city code. I've shared that with our city attorney, and I anticipate we'll have more of that as time comes up in the near future as we start kind of working our way through various issues that exist with our city code and hopefully making improvements there. The last area is a huge area that I want to bring up, and that's regarding our comp plan. We are actively working on many aspects of our comp plan. Some have been very visible and noticeable maybe, and then others maybe not so much. The first area is our number one item in our comp plan, which is with code enforcement and the cleanup of our community, and that is going on full steam ahead. I do think it's just wonderful what our mayor has put together in forming a task force to help those folks that need to have extra help. Again, congratulations on your work on that. I think that's just fabulous, and it really puts the community into community when we are able to do things like that. As a city, we can't, but a private group can, and so that's just perfect. So great work to everyone involved with that. Also, a big area of our comp plan is regarding what's known as mixed use. So it's not having just a zone for residential and a zone for business, but actually be able to mix it all together. And we have many business districts in our community, or many districts that are contemplated in the comp plan as being candidates for that kind of code. And so in meeting with different folks in the community, we are currently looking for companies that do specifically that kind of work. And we've made some progress. I've even sent out a listserv to city managers in the state of Oklahoma asking what cities have used what companies to do that kind of work. I've already had contact with one company named IBTS, who is currently working on a proposal for us, and hopefully we'll be able to identify some others so we can compare notes between them and pick the best one. But I think this will really help us to expedite the process in developing that code, and then it'll go through planning and zoning. It'll certainly come to you all, and our community can kick it around and figure out what really works best for us, but have the knowledge behind best practices in other cities as well. Another area that's identified in our comp plan is public transportation. I met a month ago with Jason Fairbrush from Embark. We had an initial meeting. He gave me a tour of their facilities and their operations. They really run a first-class operation. It's very impressive. I talked to him at that time about Bethany and shared with them that it was in our comp plan and what might we be looking at if they were to bring their operations here or establish stops here in Bethany. So today he and one of his assistants came over. We did have a meeting. We talked about, and I guess so the first question is it possible? The answer is yes, they are. It is possible, and yes, they are willing to do it. There would be a cost involved, but we would have plenty of time to incorporate that into our budget for next year, because it's a medium length time frame as far as incorporation and setting that up. They would have public meetings here and get public input on what would work best, but they certainly have spent time in Bethany, and it is heartening to know that it looks like some things might work with them, and so I'll have more for you in the upcoming future on that effort. Community engagement is another huge area of our comp plan that we're doing, and I know some of that was talked about this evening. 4 committees that you all have established, or council's established: the Branding and Logo Task Force, Arts and Culture, Parks, Rec, and Tree Board, and Cemetery Task Force. I think we're kind of reaching our final lap on those. I would really love to see us have enough folks that we can bring that onto the next agenda on the 21st of March and be able to go ahead and get those committees seated and get them moving and operational. I think that all 4 of those offer some really nice improvements to our community. Kind of along the same line, another big area that if we're going to be successful with our comp plan, we need to kind of get economic development going on all cylinders and high gear, and we have it going on in the community already, but really being able to pick and choose and develop districts is really kind of the next level of this. And I've had some activity with economic development, attended a conference in Arkansas recently, and also having some other meetings. We've been doing some research in the past 3 days. I've sent you all a very exciting email today, conclusion on TIFing in Oklahoma. Tax increment financing is leaps and bounds ahead of what we had in Nebraska, and I'm just so excited for us to be able to get going with that. I think that the future looks bright for us to envelop that tool, but there's maybe some additional tools that we can use, and I think I'm to the point where I would love to have a group of people that I could work with for an economic development group, and that's their sole purpose and focus is on economic development. And so probably at the next meeting, I will propose to you that we form a citizen-based economic development authority. Currently, City Council sits as that authority, and respectfully, we're not doing a lot of activities as it's currently set up. And I think that this way we have a group of people, citizens, that will be focused just on that. And I've seen it done in the community I was with. We had a banker, an accountant, Mayor even mentioned when I was sharing that with him today, maybe even a commercial realtor, someone that would be progressive in that way. So, but we could talk about that next time. But I wanted to give you a heads up that I am working on that. The final area under the comp plan is aligning our organization to complete the work at hand that's contemplated in it, which is by and large public works. And so we've had a lot of focus on our public safety areas over the last couple, 3 years. And so now it's time for us to really focus in the next budget year on public works and be able to bring about those services I think our community wishes. At least that's what I pick up in reading the comp plan and in visits with many of you. And so we have, again, mentioning David Buchanan here, we've had a number of ongoing meetings regarding the automation of our solid waste area that we are beyond studying. We are actually actively looking at how we can best implement at this point, and including visiting other cities that are running that operation and how we can best do that. So I anticipate that being included, incorporated for your consideration in this next budget year. I have met with our staff in Public Works in case anybody is concerned about, well, what's going to happen if we automate, what those people are going to lose their jobs. But we have shared with them that our intent is for no one to lose their job, that to be offered at the very least on whether they choose to accept a position in another department. That would be up to them. But we certainly should, through attrition, have opportunities for every person that would be displaced, if you would, by us automating the operation. And when we automate, we'll make our operation better and more consistent, and I think a better service. And it'll help clean up our community. Anybody ever seen trash cans blowing around in the wind that we had yesterday, or trash and the other debris? So I think that will be a great step for us to take forward. I think at the same time, the other thing that we're kicking around right now is potentially also asking you for your permission to possibly form a recycling task force. There seems to be interest. There are certainly people that are in the world and in our community world that have a passion for that, and perhaps putting a group of people together, this would be the time to do it if we're going to automate to do recycling as well. And then one final thing that's not in the comp plan, but we are working on our iPad project for all of City Council and your support staff. And so I hopefully will have a more formalized report in the next meeting or so. But I wanted to let you know that we were going to do that so that we can automate our processes and hopefully be able to deliver packets and information to you quicker, swifter, and you be able to get the information you need better. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 8 are council members' announcements, comments, and proposals. Let's start this evening down at Member Knapp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Change is difficult, but I was encouraged tonight, our talk about transitioning to find efficiencies, to make improvements, just a new way of looking at things as far as the July 4th festivities go. Just really encouraged about that transition, and maybe we can make it better. Hopefully so. I know I haven't been by the new library yet, but it was scheduled to open yesterday. Aaron is here, and hopefully everybody will go by the DeVille Center at 23rd and Council and visit the temporary library while we continue. There was a meeting last week about the library, and we keep chipping away at that, and hopefully before long we'll have more information to share and going forward with that. So that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Mr. Shirey?
Yes. I'm very encouraged about the new library. It's a win-win situation. It has great parking. It has a lot of visitors. And we have a shopping center there that is probably going to enjoy every minute of everybody that comes in. And that shopping center will probably gain a lot from that being there. and I certainly do. I certainly appreciate the board putting it there at that place. It makes it great. And Lane Webster is a resident of South Bethany. She's lived in South Bethany probably 50 to more years. She lives over in Ward 1. She passed away on March the 3rd. If you knew Lane, she was the little engine that could. She was about a 90-pound wonder, and she was a go-getter. She was a great person. Her husband, Bill, worked for the Daily Oklahoman for years, and they were just special people to me. And on March the 8th, 2 p.m., St. Mark's United Methodist Church will be a celebration of her life. And if you could go, I would certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.
I also am very heartened by the fact that would be automating our processes that we use in Bethany, the Public Works Department. But if you're automating and going up, you think, well, we're going to use fewer people. I think we have been stripping people that should be somewhere else just to keep us going. And it's going to, the major thing about that is it's less expensive to automate, but it doesn't cost us any more money, so we can use these people to make our city better. And I think your approach on approaching these and saying, hey, you know, we're not General Motors. We know we've got more to do, and we want to make a city of Bethany better. If we can, not if we can find, we will find a place for you to serve the city of Bethany at your skill levels. And I think we ought to go after that as much as possible. I'm encouraged to see that we're going to have the Family Fun Center, or Fun Fest this year. I think that it will work out just well, because we used to use the Chamber of Commerce, and they did a lot of work for us. But it was a much smaller organization. It just didn't seem to have the people to do it with, because the Family Fun Fest has gotten to be a big deal, and it is a great thing for the city of Bethany. And I think we should press ahead on it as much as possible, but we should also remember our roots on that. That's all I have. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Hare?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing to add.
Councilman Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The mayor and I had talked before the meeting about finding an interfaith prayer, Jewish and Baptist, that is used by both, and that's the only one I can find. So, I share Mr. Palmer's concern also, and I believe that this committee should be chaired completely by citizens, so that it's not overtaken by someone, and somebody's private agenda is not used completely. I think we have to be very, very, very careful, and the chair of that needs to be a long-term stakeholder in Bethany, because there haven't been terribly many changes to the charter, because it has to go to a vote of the people, and a lot of people that may be new to Bethany or not know the history, some of those charter changes were made for public safety, for police issues, and David and I have talked, and Mr. Carlson and I have talked. If you read the Sunday paper, the City of Oklahoma City commissioned a study on crime, and one of the main things going to be coming up is multi-use, which would have to go to a vote of the people, and the way you write that is incredibly tricky with the Fair Credit Reporting, or the housing laws, and the half-dozen acronym federal groups that tell you how you can write those changes to what you can do with property and what you can't do with the property, and you can't mention Section 8, or you can't mention certain things in those things, and it's a very tricky way to write that, so we don't end up with more apartments. you read the Sunday paper, if you read the Sunday paper, the city of Bethany did not pay for a portion of that study, is my understanding, or we would have had our apartments right in that big story about apartment buildings. And I think that it is a good idea to bring on an outside organization to help us write that, because it's gonna have to be worded so we can accomplish what we want to accomplish with mixed use and not just end up 10 years down the road with more apartments. And it's gonna be very tricky on how to write that. The cleaning up of the city, I hear from a lot of citizens that it's a daunting task to come to the microphone and talk. It is, a lot of people are scared. I'm the worst public speaker on the planet, especially when I'm sick. But if somebody wants to remain completely anonymous and report something, you should have a close enough relationship with your city council person, you can call them. If not, you can go online at the Mayor's Action Center. There's a form you can fill out exactly of what's going on, no matter what it is. If it's a police matter or if it's a city matter, whatever, you can report it there. Nobody will know who you are. You can do it there. So I don't want citizens to be hesitant to engage their city government, because we work for the citizens. So that's all I got, and I am very happy that the Freedom Festival is continuing. The reason I had that agenda item on there was in case this body decided to cancel the Freedom Festival, so we'll at least have another shot at it to bring it back. But I'm glad that we're going to celebrate and show off our city, because it is our one chance of the year to show off our city. So thank you all.
Thank you.
I may like to make a little comment to your thing that you said that the federal laws were, as they are. I want to remind you, there's a new sheriff in town.
He ain't in Oklahoma right now, though.
But he is in town.
I understand that, but
I think we will probably be dealt some relief from what he can do.
I hope you're right.
Mr. Todd?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm good. Thank you.
Dr. Harris?
I will take the time of everyone who didn't use it. We have slides of the new Bethany Library temporary location. So Steve Hartzman is putting those up. And I went over yesterday morning and took pictures. No, back it up a little. Go back to that first one. Anyhow, they are now located in the DeVille Center. And so I think it's going to be just very important. It is at the corner of 23rd and Council. The hours are the same, so you can see that they're there. The phone number is the same. The staff are the same. It's just a different location. So click to the next one. And
Script this time.
no script. I don't have a script. So this is the entrance to the library. The Metropolitan Library System has spent a lot of money remodeling this space. It's on the north side of the shopping center. It does have an exterior book drop, and the memorial bench is there, so it's been moved over from the other building. And the same friendly staff, and Erin Bedford is up here. You can see her also in the picture. And the children's area has the same pictures, and it's very inviting. And then there are lots of computers, there's study space. I was very impressed with really the newness of the area. And the most important part, there are new restrooms that are ADA accessible, and they're clean and they're wonderful. So that's a big improvement from the old restrooms. And there is a meeting room. I didn't take a picture of it, but the Bethany Library will be at the DeVille Center for the next 18 months or so while the new library is under construction. So make sure you go use it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer.
How many square foot's in that new library?
Do you know, Erin? 9,000, so it's just a little bit bigger.
A little bit bigger than what we
A
have.
little bit bigger, okay.
Great.
The other things I wanted to mention, I want to thank Nikki for sending us the employee newsletter. I don't know if this is a new newsletter, but I really appreciated getting it. And also, we've talked about a new food truck permit, and I know that you've been working on that. But I also wanted to ask that we revise the itinerant vendors, which includes some of the food trucks. But we have, or at least I've heard from people who wanted to do like a pumpkin stand or something for that time of the year, Christmas tree stand. They wanted to bring in food trucks for the Christmas tree lighting downstairs. And there's just some language in our itinerant vendor permit that is restrictive and really turns people off. So I'm just asking for a revision of that. And then also removing the part about requiring vendors to pay a $10 per vendor permit to the city. I know that's affected us with the Bethany 66 Festival because we seem to be the only festival that collects that $10, and then we send it into the city, and it's like, what are we supposed to do with this? Because nobody else is collecting it or doing it, and it just seems really limiting. I think it was originally organized for the farmers markets, and they just don't happen anymore. So I would suggest that be deleted, and that we just focus on the sales tax permit, the health permit, the permission from the owner, and the things that are really important when we have itinerant vendors.
May I ask a real quick question?
Sure.
When you said the restrictive part of it, is there anything we should look in particularly when we bring that back for you all?
Just happen to have it in front of me. There talks about adequate off-street parking, and if the vendor is to receive money in advance of final delivery, then a surety or cash occupation bond in the amount of $1,000 must be provided. Structural, electrical, and plumbing installations in accordance with city codes, no more than 2 signs, 50 square feet in area. There are just things in here that and it talks about not being open more than 150 days in a calendar year. Generally, I think what people are wanting to bring in is a food truck for a festival or something that maybe will last a weekend. And this seems to be designed for events that are going to happen over time, and therefore they're more restrictive than is necessary. I had a food vendor tell me the other day that Bethany had the worst itinerant vendor ordinance there was because she had tried to work with the downtown business people who wanted to bring in some food trucks for the Christmas lighting, and it just didn't work within the ordinance. So just look at it.
May I ask if, it sounds like maybe we need to research and compare notes with some other cities. Would the first meeting in April be acceptable?
I think that would be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think that David did some of that perhaps when we were looking at the food truck, and that still has to come to us. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Palmer?
I would like to thank the city of Bethany for installing 2 stop signs at the intersection of 46th Street and College Avenue. Apparently that's been quite a debate over the years, and I'm glad that we were able to get that installed. The safety in Ward 2, particularly my neighborhood, is very important, and I think that helps the city, it helps the community, and not only it helps the residents to understand that the city's responsive to their needs, and we get things done timely, and we get them done correctly. I also want to remind the residents, especially in Ward 2, about the Mayor's Neighborhood Task Force. I think JD mentioned that. If you have any issues related to a citation, call the Mayor Task Force, ask for additional time. We will work with you to try to make sure that you can get the job done in a timely manner without having to pay the fine to the city. We're going to do the best we can to accommodate what we can and try to help you in any way. I'd also like to remind everyone in Ward 3 the upcoming election is April 4th, 2017. The 2 candidates are Arvell Williams and Robert McCutcheon. If you don't know them, make every effort to find out who who they are and what they stand for, and I would ask you to participate in that election. And on a personal note, I would like to ask for your support for the Bethany baseball team. They're playing in the Bricktown Ballpark tonight, and if you have any free time, make a point to support the baseball team and Coach Drummond, and more importantly, the Bethany Public School System. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay.
I was just going to mention to the new city council people, Randy and I used to have several city hall meetings or town hall meetings where, you know, we can have them as often as we want. You know, any city councilman can have a city hall meeting, have the citizens come and have open discussion, or have it actually, you know, on an agenda, whatever they want, just to get citizens. But if you're ever scratching your head and want to know what somebody's thinking, hold a town hall meeting, because people will show up and they'll talk to you, and it can be done anytime.
Sounds good to me. I'd like to make a comment that I've been thinking about. This is a quote from a man that I respect, and it kind of goes along with what we've been doing and the way I think. And that is, there's risk in what we do, but there's also risk in what we do not do. We're making decisions as a city council and as a city and staff to try to move our city forward. And if at any time we make a mistake, I'll be the first one to admit it, and we will make a change and try to fix it. But I think it is foolish for us to stand still and be afraid to make a decision out of fear and not get anywhere. I'd rather move forward and fall on my face a few times and eventually walk pretty well. So that's kind of the way I feel about it. So I thank you for letting me say that. Item number 9 is new business. Does anybody have any new business they would like to discuss? I have one thing that I would like to bring up in new business just quickly. We have a city council retreat that'll be, I don't know if we have it scheduled or not, but
After the next, the last council member seat.
okay, after the council seat is filled, then we'll have a council retreat where we'll be coming together as a team. And I would kind of like to propose maybe to take a look or have the discussion amongst the council about the call to the public and how that's done. I want to hear from the public, but it makes me feel a little weird when somebody comes to the microphone, like they're intimidated, probably some people are, and we can't even engage or respond to them. It seems kind of rude. And so to me, it seems like if it's important enough to them to be something to talk about, maybe they could put it on, somehow get it on the agenda item so that we could actually make decisions for their concerns. But I just think that's something maybe we need to talk about at the retreat.
I think when you go for your training, that will be discussed, because several cities I heard from had quit doing that because they found it so embarrassing. And yet I think it's important that we hear from our public. So you'll get it as part of your training.
So they'll tell us to keep it, or are
No,
they going to
they'll
tell us what to
discuss
do?
it.
With no new business, and without objection, I declare us adjourned until March 21st, 2017. Now I call to order the Bethany Public Works Authority. Item number 1 is the consent docket. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Do we have any new business? Without objection, I declare us adjourned until March 21st, 2017. Now I call to order the Bethany Hospital Trust. Item number 1 is the consent docket. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Please cast your votes. Without objection, I declare us adjourned until March 21st, 2017. Now I call to order the Bethany Development Authority. Item 1 is consent docket. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item number 2, any new business? Without objection, I declare us adjourned until March 21st, 2017. This concludes tonight's meeting. Thanks for coming.